In this video, we'll discuss the four main concepts of object-oriented programming, or OOP. Technical interviews often include questions about object-oriented programming. Therefore, it's really important for you to have a solid grasp on OOP, at least from a conceptual standpoint. Object-oriented programming is a model that organizes software development around data, or, as you may have guessed, around objects, rather than just functions and logic. As JavaScript is developed further each year and new releases are made available, its object-oriented design capabilities increase exponentially. For programmers from a world of C# or Java, where OOP is the norm, this makes JavaScript a much more comfortable arena to play in. For JavaScript developers like you, understanding object-oriented principles will not only help you be a more effective developer now, but will also help you if you ever need to branch out and write code in a different programming language. Enough of this intro stuff, let's dive in. OOP has four main principles we need to understand: encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, and polymorphism. Encapsulation is the idea that the state and data of each object are privately held inside of a class. Other objects should not have access to data inside of that class, but rather will need to call a public method to return that data. Consider the following Java class, employee. Here, we see a private variable called salary and a public method called getSalary. From outside the class, we can't access salary because it's private. Instead, we have to call the public method getSalary, which returns that value to us. This protects the data that's stored inside of this class. Inheritance, however, allows a parent-child type relationship among classes, in which all child classes inherit the methods of their parent classes. For example, if you're writing an application for an HR system, you might have a parent class of employee and child classes that are more specific, like manager or shift worker. Let's see how this looks in code. In these two classes, we see how manager extends from employee. We can say that manager inherits from the employee class. Even though manager does not have its own getSalary method, it inherits that method from employee and can therefore use it. Encapsulation and inheritance are arguably the most important of the four OOP concepts for you to grasp. Abstraction and polymorphism can be a little more difficult to understand. Abstraction allows us to hide complex logic behind an easy-to-use interface. For example, getSalary does what you expect it to. You don't need to know what's happening behind the scenes, how many hundreds of methods it might be calling. Polymorphism allows us to create one class but have it do something different based on the number or type of parameters we send it. This is also called method overloading, and it represents a static form of polymorphism. In JavaScript, we often do this with a third parameter constructed as an object, which can contain any number of key-value pairs. In the code you see here, the method doSomething takes in three arguments: A, B, and an optional ops, which is short for options. This argument can contain key-value pairs, or it could be an empty object. The first thing we do is check whether a specific key inside of that object exists. In this case, test. If it does, we then execute some logic. Object-oriented programming is definitely complex. You don't need to understand it entirely or know how to write an entire program with it in order to step into the field of full-stack web development. However, it is important to have a basic understanding of these four principles so you know how OOP languages are used to build software.